Hello, friends. Welcome back to the channel. In our last episode, we explored Chapter 8 of Handbook of Abhidhamma Studies, Volume 2, where we studied Nibbana and conditionality. We saw how Nibbana is the unconditioned reality, how conditional relations cease at enlightenment, and how the unconditioned is realized through conditioned practice. Today, we move into Chapter 9, Practical Application of Conditional Relations. This chapter is especially important because it brings the Abhidhamma down to earth. It shows how conditionality is not just theory, but something we can observe in daily life. It encourages meditators to notice how feelings condition craving, how mindfulness conditions wisdom, and how every moment is shaped by conditions. It also shows that insight meditation or Vipassanā is essentially the observation of conditionality, and it provides practical guidance for integrating Abhidhamma study with meditation practice. So, if you've ever wondered, how do I use Abhidhamma in daily life? How does conditionality help in meditation? How can study and practice come together? This chapter will guide us. Conditionality is not just a philosophical concept, it is something we can observe in daily life. For example, when pleasant feeling arises, it conditions craving. We want more of the pleasant experience. When unpleasant feeling arises, it conditions aversion. We want to push it away. When mindfulness arises, it conditions wisdom. Awareness leads to insight. By observing these conditional relations, we see how suffering arises. We also see how mindfulness and wisdom can break the chain. For example, when anger arises, we can notice this is conditioned by perception and attention. It is not me, it is just conditions. That reflection weakens attachment. So, conditionality is observable in daily life. It helps us understand how the mind works. Insight meditation or Vipassana is essentially the observation of conditionality. In Vipassana, we observe phenomena as they arise and cease. We notice how one condition leads to another. For example, we observe how feeling conditions craving. We observe how craving conditions clinging. We observe how mindfulness conditions wisdom. This observation leads to insight into impermanence, suffering, and non-self. For example, when we observe the breath, we notice how attention conditions concentration. When we observe thoughts, we notice how perception conditions recognition. This shows that Vipassana is the practical application of conditionality. It is the direct observation of how phenomena arise due to conditions. So, Abhidhamma study and Vipassana practice are deeply connected. One provides the map, the other provides the journey. How can we integrate Abhidhamma study with meditation practice? First, we can use Abhidhamma concepts as a framework. For example, we can observe mental factors as they arise. We can notice greed, hatred, delusion, mindfulness, wisdom, compassion. Second, we can observe conditional relations. We can notice how feeling conditions craving, how mindfulness conditions wisdom, how volition conditions action. Third, we can reflect on impermanence. We can notice how each moment arises and ceases. Fourth, we can reflect on non-self. We can notice that phenomena arise due to conditions, not due to a permanent self. This integration deepens practice. It helps us see reality clearly. It transforms meditation into insight. For example, when pain arises in meditation, we can analyze it as conditioned matter. We can notice how perception conditions recognition, how feeling conditions craving, how mindfulness can condition wisdom. This changes our relationship to pain. It becomes less personal, more objective. So, Abhidhamma study provides the framework. Vipassana practice provides the experience. Together, they lead to liberation. Conditionality can also be applied in daily life. When we interact with others, we can observe mental factors. Are we acting with greed or compassion, with hatred or kindness? When we face challenges, we can reflect on impermanence. This situation will pass. When we feel strong emotions, we can remember non-self. This anger is not me. This joy is not me. They are conditioned phenomena. By applying conditionality in daily life, we cultivate mindfulness, wisdom, and compassion. For example, when someone criticizes us, we can notice how perception conditions feeling, how feeling conditions craving or aversion, how mindfulness can condition wisdom. This changes our response. We become less reactive, more mindful. So, conditionality is not just for meditation, it is a guide for daily life. Here are some practical exercises for observing conditionality. 1. Mindfulness of feeling. Notice pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings. Observe how they condition craving or aversion. 2. Mindfulness of thought. Notice thoughts as they arise. Observe how perception conditions recognition, how volition conditions action. 3. Mindfulness of reaction. Notice reactions to events. Observe how feeling conditions craving, how mindfulness can condition wisdom. 4. Reflection on impermanence. Notice how each moment arises and ceases. Reflect on the impermanence of all phenomena. 5. Reflection on non-self. Notice how phenomena arise due to conditions, not due to a permanent self. These exercises help us observe conditionality directly. They transform study into practice. Some critics say Abhidhamma is too technical. Why so many conditions? Isn't this over-analysis? But the purpose is precision. Just as a scientist studies molecules in detail, a meditator studies conditions in detail. Another criticism is that it is too abstract, but in practice, even a basic understanding helps us see conditionality. We don't need to memorize all 24 conditions. We just need to see that phenomena arise due to causes and can cease when causes are removed. So, to conclude, Chapter 9 of Volume 2 emphasizes the practical application of conditional relations. We've learned that meditators can observe conditionality in daily life. We've seen that Vipassanā is essentially the observation of conditionality, and we've explored practical guidance for integrating Abhidhamma study with meditation practice. Most importantly, we've seen how this helps us in practice. By observing conditionality, we deepen insight, reduce attachment, and move toward liberation. Thank you so much for joining me in this deep dive into Chapter 9 of Handbook of Abhidhamma Studies, Volume 2. We've journeyed through the practical application of conditional relations, seeing how feelings condition craving, how mindfulness conditions wisdom, and how Vipassana is the observation of conditionality. We've reflected on how Abhidhamma study can be integrated with meditation practice. If you found this exploration helpful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who might be interested in Buddhist philosophy and meditation. In our next episode, we'll move into Chapter 10, where we summarize the Abhidhamma system and reflect on its integration into daily practice. Until then, may you be well, may you be peaceful, and may you continue your journey into wisdom.